Brought to you by the Every Dollar app. Start budgeting for free today. Caitlin is in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Hi, Caitlin. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Better than I deserve. What's up?
So I guess to get short with it, I need to figure out how to essentially get my spouse. He is mentally on board with me, but not physically on board with me in not just baby steps, but financial aspects in general. He has a bit of a addiction with instant gratification.
Okay. It's not an addiction. It's not an addiction. It's just immaturity.
That's a very good point. Yes.
Yeah. How old is he?
He is the same age as me. He's 32.
Okay.
How does that manifest? What does it look like? His spending. We'll put it in addiction for quotes right now.
Sure. So he is he's got a little bit better. I'll give him that credit, but he is pretty selfish. Some examples are the family car was a decent family car, one that fits the kids. We unfortunately outgrew it, not to him knowing. But then he, instead of just leaving it as a daily, he needed to lower it, which makes it more expensive and ruins the car more. Then he needed to buy a customized steering wheel that absolutely wasn't needed. Then he needed to do this and he needed that.
He souped up your family minivan?
Wow.
So not the minivan. It was a wagon. It was his daily that would still fit us at the time. Not anymore, but at the time would fit all of us.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had like a daily that would fit all of us.
And is he creating debt while doing this?
Oh, I can't even argue. I can't even fathom the amount. Like being a person that before I met him, I bought my own house as a single mom. It completely destroys me. I have so much stress from everything he's done. Actually, the last year I spent curing stress seizures.
Wow.
Okay. You said you had children. How many?
We have 3 children. Mm-hmm. One of them is not biologically his, but he, since day one, has taken care of her like he is his. She is his, excuse me.
Okay. All right. Well, this is not a money problem. It's not a budget problem. This is a marriage problem. It's a marriage problem. And so we end up backing into those sometimes through budgeting and that kind of stuff. But budgets don't control people. People control budgets. Mm-hmm. Or in some cases don't do a budget, or in some cases don't live with a budget. But budgets they don't have any magic powers. It's just simply a roadmap. Mm-hmm. Maps don't control people. You just look at the road map and am I going to go down the road or not? That's all a budget is. It's just a map. And so and wives don't control husbands, and husbands don't control wives. Yeah. As much as they'd like to, and as much as it would be awesome if we could pull it off, we just can't do it. And so what we've got here is, as you said, selfish and immature guy who's putting his own impulses ahead of the good of his family.
Have you guys reached out to a counselor?
That's what you need.
Yes. So we've done marriage counseling already that I set up that then he denied.
You're not done.
He set up marriage counseling, but he was ready.
Oh.
No, I know. So we've done these things because that's where it's led to. I've also
Did he go?
He went 2 times to the one I set up, and then he denied going because he was essentially being blamed for things, and he didn't like it. He was getting defensive, and it's like, well, not saying that I'm perfect, but, your selfish habits are creating an issue.
Yeah.
Then he set up marriage counseling. He also more recently is going back to therapy for himself.
Okay.
Years ago, but he is going now. And now he is seeing and I don't remember the difference between psychiatrist and psychologist, but technically I guess seeing both.
So he's got a lot of stuff going on, huh?
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah. The first thing you said when you said, hey, we went to counseling, he didn't like my counselor because this and that. I will say both spouses need to feel good with the counselor because, Sam and I, we've gone to counselors and it's been like, I don't like her or I didn't like him. And you do sometimes have to.
But if you don't like them because they're telling you the truth, that's a problem.
Yeah, that is a problem.
Yeah. Yes. He also didn't like that the guy didn't get his name right a couple of times, which I won't argue, whatever. But yeah, it was mostly because of he's telling him the truth and he doesn't want to hear it.
Yeah, that's mostly.
So he is going and he is going for himself. That's good. I think the hard part with this is not necessarily going to mean that next week things are different, right? Like this is something
Correct,
that's going to play out over time. And he's still actively creating debt for your family at this moment in time, right? Or no, that stopped?
Unfortunately, yes. Even though we try to work out things that, give him leniency isn't really the word.
And the debt,
ways to have,
if he's running these things up on credit cards, is your name on the credit card, or is it just these are cards that he's pulling out and he's doing this on his own?
So he had like one in my name that he put into collections that then I paid off because I was also on it trying to help him build credit from when we first got married.
Okay, and that one's closed.
Yep, and that one's closed. He's got 3 of his own. He hasn't touched credit cards in a couple years. And then we kind of discussed how we're going to make things work, and I asked if he was ready. And so he got a $300 limit back like 2 weeks ago. And he racked that up, plus he had $100 cash. So he spent $400 in about 5 days. So I took the credit card away. I was like, you clearly aren't ready. You told me you're ready.
Well, I think as a rule of thumb in your family in general, you need to cut up all the credit cards, and no one uses them. No one uses any more credit cards. So that's thing one, is we just don't operate on debt anymore. I mean, my screen says that, if you're in the trying to do the baby steps, like you definitely cannot use credit cards anymore. So those get cut up. And then after that, yeah, you probably do need to have a real conversation about how his access is to this money if he's just going to go off and spend $500 and $600. I mean, that's a scary position to be in, Dave.
Caitlin, at some point, through you working with a counselor or working with his counselor, the day is going to come, and it's coming pretty soon based on the tone of your voice, that you're finally going to say something like, if we can't get on the same page with money and you can't be a grown man and take care of your family instead of buying freaking steering wheels, then I'm not going to be able to be here anymore. Because you're terrifying me. I am awake at night. I've never been in debt like this. Your out of control, childish behavior with money is terrifying me. I can't live like this. So if you can't be a grown man and learn to control your impulses, you're not a 12-year-old little boy. You're acting like one. But if you can't be a grown man and we can't get a bead on, we're going to manage our income together for the good of this family that will include you doing some fun things and me doing some fun things, but it's going to include being a freaking responsible grown-up.
Yeah.
And if we can't get to that point, I'm not going to be able to be here. And you need the guidance of a good counselor on how to say that and when to say that. I'm not suggesting you hang up the phone and say, Dave Ramsey said that.
Sure.
But I'm telling you, if you do not get there systematically and begin to put that in front of him, one day, here's what's going to happen. And I know this because I've counseled thousands of couples. You're going to have that little switch that particularly ladies have down inside them. And it's going to blow a fuse. And you're going to be done. And no amount of talking, and no amount of cajoling, and no amount of logic, and no amount of preachers, and no amount of nothing is going to get you back in the marriage. You're going to wave bye-bye. Because you're going to blow a gasket, and you will have had it. And I've tried to reel these ladies back in after they've blown it and show them that the guy he gave in. Too late. She's gone. All you see is her back walking away. She's done. You wait, you just kept on until she blows a freaking gasket. And it's in your voice, I can hear it. So you need to keep away from that gasket blowing by getting some coaching on how to bring him to bear before you don't care if he comes to bear anymore. This is The Ramsey Show.